What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free to stay in the loop. Arm yourselves, life stuff. This should probably be an order development video, but what can you do? I'll link something in the description I think is worth reading. Hemingway on Mussolini. Sometimes you forget Hemingway was a reporter, and a damn good one. And that damn was at exactly 30 seconds, so we're still advertiser friendly. Of any leader I could become interested in, why is it Mussolini? Well, it's probably the same reason Hemingway hated Mussolini. They're the same person. If Mussolini is, as Hemingway says, the biggest bluff in all of Europe, then Hemingway is the biggest bluff in the United States. And Hemingway bluffed so well, a lot of people never called him on it. A lot of people never found out he's actually an ass-mad, red, hyper-sad boy, and that's why I love him. In the same way, Mussolini was a clever dope who wanted the best for his country. You read old reports of Mussolini, and it seems like if he didn't go Axis, he would have been revered. I think I have this psychic attraction to earnest people, like Ernest Hemingway and Mussolini. And one of the other reasons I recommend you read this article is it, early in Hemingway's life, encapsulates what makes Hemingway the greatest of all time. He reads Mussolini like a book. He insults his drip. He hits him with a, "What are those?" He mocks young dudes, as you should, for the reasons you should, and does it all succinctly. Anyway, I'm thinking about all this because I had my second time at the helm. Except this time, Slim wasn't at the helm, so I was flying solo. And going into it, I was feeling a weird nervousness. I know I can do this, but I don't know if I will. But I did, and it went better than I thought it could have. Saint O'Neill said, "Every man should womanize thoroughly at some point in his life." And the reason he said you should do this is you learn what is not what people tell you is. But the message in his womanizing concept goes far beyond just relationships. You realize the entire world is not what people tell you it is. The entire world and the people in it are clay. And even if you find yourself in a situation you can't work a bit of clay, that doesn't change the fact it is clay and it can be worked. This was another important meeting. And before the meeting I could see it happening, but even during the meeting I could see it trying to happen. Things moving against me, but I handled them. I abided my values, and everything was okay. It feels like every meeting is an attempted assassination, and the way this one was set up to go, especially dangerous because Slim was not there to back me up. We're going to call him Narcissist ENTJ. So we have Psychopath ENTJ. This is Narcissist ENTJ. Clinically, I think. If not a psychopath, I don't think he's a psycho. Maybe he is. Maybe there's a different form of them. But in terms of evil, there's a distinction between this ENTJ and the other ENTJ. The one I'm talking about right now is the one who grabbed my dick when I finally felt emotionally open enough to cry with somebody. He's been trying to build a voter base to get me out. In some instances, bringing people in other instances, engineering situations that I'll need to take a side that most people are opposed to. And in this case, we have new potential votes at the meeting, and I am maneuvered into a position I need to stand up for Sphinxy, the woman who was giving us all this shit, holding us hostage, trying to fuck up my career. Now that she's been dealt with handily, we won, people want to put the hurt on her. And that's not right. And not in some good or evil moral sense, but in the contractual sense, the agreement sense. Contracts are sacred. We're in a position we could break an agreement to fuck her bad. Because even though she's been beaten, she is not going down without a fuss. Not a fight, but a fuss. And people want to punish her for having a fuss. But her fuss is not outside our agreement. And as long as whatever she does lies within our agreement, then we should uphold it, because we agreed to it. Agreements are sacred. She has not broken her end of the agreement. She's just been shitty and snotty. Snottiness is not enough reason to break an agreement and degrade ourselves like that. So I'm in a position I need to defend someone I hate against a blood mob, and it's going to make me look bad. But that is not at all how it turned out. With just me at the helm, the entire vibe of this meeting was different. And when you're the one in the head chair and you look the part and you're skilled or experienced enough to play the part, people listen to you. That, or once we sat down, that Sphinxy situation was not even 5 minutes. The mob called for blood, I said no, and that was it. And then what followed with young Skimmerlit at the helm was one of the best meetings we've ever had. Every issue got dealt with. Everyone had a say. There was no... A lot of the times there'll be a few people who want to speak but don't because everybody else is talking. That didn't happen. I made sure everyone got their say. And the stuff people had to say was good stuff. Everything we needed to get approved was approved. And we put together a plan going into 2025 collaboratively that we can do, so we're not going to talk ourselves out of, and we're not going to overload ourselves with ideas to the point we do nothing. We have a plan, and we can do it. And I know we can do it because the way it's set up, I can force these things to happen. The meeting went so well, even the shitty people seemed to be having a good time, seemed satisfied, and the things they proposed, again, I can force or hold them accountable to. So if we get it done, these other things, that's great. If we don't, then you've just seriously nuked your credibility. And then Narcissist ENTJ wanted to be my best buddy. And I never forget slights or worse, and I never forgive slights or worse. However, in this instance, I think there's a way to make him useful, no matter how we feel about each other, no matter what's gone on. His problem is he's out of control. His mouth writes checks his ass can't cash, and then he's ass hurt about consequences. What he needs is a dom who will keep him in the right place that will allow his best self to flourish. He needs someone to teach him how to act. And I don't mind teaching him. I'll teach him gently and graciously. When directed well, he's competent enough to do great things that would be good for us, and we can do for him and make his ego feel good and try to get him closer to where he wants to be. Under old management, I respect Slim. I've learned a lot from Slim. Slim is conflict avoidant. Well, I won't say conflict avoidant. He's very passive aggressive, and his master sergeant side comes out occasionally, but rarely. This dude needs constant correction. As long as he's willing to play nice, I know how to get the best out of him. So we don't have to get rid of him. But if he pushes and tries to get ugly, what I've discussed on this channel is not even the worst in moral fashion, even in legal fashion, that I know of him. And in some instances can prove of him. But even the stuff I wouldn't be able to prove, let's say I had nothing, his reputation is bad enough. All most people in this sphere need is an excuse. Because he targets people who don't know him. He's very charming when you first meet him and you don't know anything about him. Because he comes off as this quirky gay dude who is brilliant. You see why, but you see why some people wouldn't like him, not realizing that some people is actually all people, and you feel like you need to protect him. So you go to bat for him, and then between his actions and other people's actions, you realize what he actually is. He's a creepy, thin-skinned parasite. But, just like with Sphinxy, where other people want him dead or exiled, I think there's a way we can do this that will make everybody happy. Because one of the things I realized during this meeting is he is clay, just as much as anybody else is, or anything else is. All you need is the willpower to work it correctly. And this all got me thinking about politicking. In the same way we don't research traditionally, or do anything else traditionally, I think we can politic, but not traditionally. I think you read about politics, you watch politics play out, and these huge 300 IQ moves intimidate you. But I realized I'm doing okay without any of all that. I am aerosolized poison. I'm a disease. My existence is noxious. By the book, I'm not a narcissist, but you can call me that. You should call me that. You can call me any N-word. It's more than that. I'm not hiding myself from myself. I don't know what it is, but unless someone enters my sphere personally hating me, personally wanting to harm me, I think I poison neutrals to my side. And I don't need to take any planned or great sweeping actions to make that happen. I think what I want people to think, and then they think it, without my saying or doing anything to try to make them think it. It's like magic, and I will be humbled and humiliated for thinking this, but that doesn't change the fact it's the case. I think as long as you are acting as an instrument of your God, wild things are possible. And you achieve these levels in weird ways. I'm wondering if this meeting went well in part because of additional image sculpting I've been doing, both physically and egotistically. One of the things I don't think I've ever talked about is a big part of my job, the way I do it, of course, it's not in the job description, is spending a great deal of time at once thinking about all the problems on my plate, trying to keep them straight, how impossible they are, how unreasonable people are, and then what a god a person needs to be to straighten all this out and fix it all. Fixing impossible problems. That's what this job is. Every day, getting some groups of people dumping their different versions of impossible problems on you and then needing to fix them. What a god you have to be to do that. And it feels like ego cultivation. While I'm thinking about these things, it's like I'm farming XP points, or XP ID, or PIN number, that's what it is. Farming XP and then dumping that XP into my ego to strengthen it and refine it and then use it. And shock yourself, because no matter what you become capable of, on some level you're aware, or it's like you're nothing. Bird and worm. A lot of the time, I don't feel like I'm me. I feel like this non-identity consciousness steering this ego that it has been placed in control of. It could just as easily been attached to a worm. And then you'll have moments of, holy shit, I'm not in control of this self I've built, this tool, because that's what, in these instances, your entire life feels like. It feels like a tool, a long-built, but still ephemeral tool, and then you wrangle control back and apply it. For fear of, or always in fear of, watching the entire thing disintegrate. And then what are you left with? But on the physical side of things, I haven't had a beard in a long time. For years, I've worn a mustache. And I like my mustache. Like many aspects of myself, it's not huge, but it's very nice. I don't know a clean-shaven dude. I don't see them in person. I don't see them online. And as much as I like my mustache, looking at all these whiskery dudes has been triggering disgust in me. So much disgust, I don't want to look anything like them. And now, clean-shaven, I'm a different sort of grotesque. With the mustache, I looked like I could be a problem right now. Without the mustache, I look like I will be a problem at some undetermined point in the future. I look like the Penguin with Forrest Whitaker eyes and monkey mouth. Filipino heritage really is like some Innsmouth shit. You reach a certain age and then you start genetically transforming to resemble the horrible truth of your blood. I got Mike Myers Grinch mouth. I got silverback gorilla lips. But the entire point of doing this was to distance myself from a look or an aesthetic I am increasingly disgusted with. And this feels like a left-hand path move. This feels like a new level. Like, my debuffs are stronger because I'm wearing my contempt in a subtler fashion. It's the same reason I wear a Luftwaffe watch. Almost nobody is going to know what that is. Some people do. That Marxist did, and I think that's why we had a negative first interaction. The poison is stronger. And because I've learned how to dress well comfortably, I think I sell the look better. And part of that image training, I watched The Godfather again last night. Holy shit, I watched The Godfather again last night. Quick tangent. Every time I watch that movie, I have different feelings. I love Sonny as a character. What a good brother. He and Tom are screaming at each other about business, not personal, and then the moment Michael decides he wants to step in seriously, Sonny drops his side of the argument, and he does it jokingly, and maybe other people are laughing at Michael. That's kind of how it feels the first few times you watch the movie, but this time around it did not feel like he was laughing at Michael. It felt like he was laughing to try to stop this idea from going forward because he knows Michael would do it. You'll notice Sonny never once says you can't do this. He says things that indicate you should not do this or you don't want to do this. And he swaps his side of the argument about it being personal, not business, to it's business, and this man is taking it very personal in an attempt to keep his brother safe. Nothing for Sonny is more important than his family's safety. He's willing to drop an argument to keep his brother safe. I love Sonny. I also love Tom Hagen. I think we've talked about Tom in the past. Tom Hagen is the sort of man I want to, or the sort of presentation I want to have. But then, the reason I hated The Godfather 2 the first couple times I watched it, and I've come around on that movie, but hated Michael in general, his coldness. And I do still hate Michael because of just dumb decisions and shitty decisions or shitty way of conducting himself, especially to the people who treat him best. Like, why would you be shitty to Tom Hagen? That's a sin. But after watching both movies a bunch of times now, I think I can appreciate Michael. Not in spite of his coldness, but because of it. Right? It's not the obnoxious, shitty things about Michael are still obnoxious and shitty, and the coldness does not make those things worse or excuse them. That awful side of him is why you tolerate that other awful side of him. Michael is a thoroughly awful character, but the conflict or the balance is cruelty, effective cruelty by necessity, and cruelty for no reason. Michael was necessary. Nobody else could do what Michael did. Nobody had the fortitude or the skill to keep the Corleone family together and safe, especially with Vito gone. And even with Vito, as skilled as Vito was, I'm beginning to look at Vito the way one might look at Marcus Aurelius. Effective, great, but as high as he was, thanks more to permitting circumstances. Or permissive circumstances. When things get bad, you can't afford those niceties. You need a Michael Corleone. You need something uglier and scarier than whatever is lurking in the darkness. If a society is peaceful and moral and has any intention of lasting, it is necessarily led by a tyrant. If not tyrannical to his own people, then tyrannical to the forces of chaos. And frankly, people are incapable of putting themselves in order. or directing themselves toward any worthwhile goals. Most people. It's like Jonathan Irons, and that might not be the last time we bring him up in this video. People need rules and security. They need to be afraid. Because if people aren't afraid of you, the one on their side, then they won't be afraid of the demons in the shadows, and they'll learn the really hard way. The no second chance hard way. I'd like to run for some sort of office someday, and I think there is a feasible way to do it. You don't decide policy by which party you're voting for. Over however many years, you vote on a series of policies that become an agreed upon, popular set of policies that is then carried out by a representative chosen to carry out that set of policies. Do it via social media, make it a big event, bring a little direct democracy into this republic, and you vote for a representative to carry all this out whose word is golden, who views contracts as sacred, and can prove it. Because people don't actually give a fuck about policy. Trump doesn't like your online anonymity. He doesn't like your guns. It seems like people forgot about Epstein already. And I'm not a pro-anybody person. The reason I bring this up is to demonstrate the fact people don't care about what they say they care about. They care about a show. And if you can give them a good show that gets them involved, makes them feel powerful, you'll get votes. And then use that to springboard into other things. Something like building an America worth believing in, worth dying for. Bill the Butcher, are you prepared to die for your country? Civilization is crumbling. And if you believe in contracts, then you don't need to believe in democracy or representation to do democracy and representation justice. You do what you have been elected to do, and then you take that clout and do whatever you want to do after that. And these are high in the sky dreams, but because the world is clay, all of it's clay, whether or not you're capable of working it, you can figure out how to work it, and you can achieve more of these achievable natty gains than you would typically be allowed to believe. All you need to do is perform ridiculous acts in a way people will believe. And I was thinking about taxation last week. I think one of the reasons we're in the shitter, or we're going down the shitter, is we, the United States, is taxing its own citizens. There are 829 million people in North and South America combined. There are about 8.2 million people on the planet. There aren't enough people to make everyone in the Americas part of the 1%, but there are enough to make everyone in the Americas part of the 10%. Why aren't we taxing the rest of the world for existing? Why are we taxing our citizens into the dirt, sending them off to die, to carry shit out into the field to get blown up and themselves blown up, essentially throwing their shit and themselves down the money hole to be replaced for money? Why are we fucking ourselves over when there are so many other shitty nations out there we could be taking advantage of? Both the Americas. The English pay for TV and porn licenses. Why don't we force them to pay for existence licenses? They'd probably be thankful for it. I'm starting to ramble, but with each day that passes, more acceptable targets reveal themselves. Because another thing I realized is I do set goals, but I don't set one goal. I don't aim at one target. I spot as many acceptable targets as possible. And because my marksmanship, my personal marksmanship stinks, I don't hit any targets by my own skill. I point in those targets' general direction, I close my eyes and I pull the trigger, and I see what fate allows me to hit or does not allow me to hit. And then, once we've hit an acceptable target, we choose another target. It's like golf. Go to the next hole. Ultimate goal, whatever our God wants from us. Cannot do herself, needs us to do. Cherished antibodies, building the immune system. We were going to talk about our fantasy corporate structure, but we'll do that another time. For now, in summary, in terms of politicking, and anything really, you don't work hard to enact high IQ plays. You're a mortal. You're an instrument. You commune with the unknown and become whatever it is you're supposed to become. You put yourself out there and get a sense of whatever it is you're supposed to do, and then you do that. That's your politicking. Magic, will, and faith will carry you the rest of the way, wherever you're supposed to end up. The person you are doesn't even matter. Your identity doesn't even matter. It's a tool this disconnected consciousness that you are uses to pursue the goals it has been assigned to pursue. And maybe, when this is all said and done, you'll be allowed to disconnect from this horror person you've been attached to and this horror world you've been stuck in. Probably not, but maybe. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.